I don't really know that much about Oskkaka, but on the other day I learned that he doesn't like roping or people who rope against him. I think I will rope him.
I definitely know of him. He's always been a big fan of Shaman, and he actually brought it here as well, so it's pretty cool. Unfortunately, now I have to play against him, so maybe I'll knock him out, but we'll see.
I think Oskkaka definitely underestimate APEC. Even though we are less known, we all practice really hard, just like they do.
He's actually one of the most technical players. He really takes his time on every turn, and so you can tell that he's a really good player when you see him play.
Oskkaka is a really good player, and so am I.
I'd say that he brought some pretty straightforward decks.
I have one message for my opponent: the elements will destroy.
Oskkaka versus PingPingHo!
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Hearthstone World Championship. The players are almost ready. They are taking their positions. I'm your host, Nims. I'm here with Robert and Amaz. We're gonna bring you this amazing game.
Yeah, really interesting series coming up here. We have two players who are kind of pride themselves on different styles of winning. PingPingHo obviously really values playing Shaman. He likes innovating. That's kind of his thing, whereas obviously Oskkaka comes from a pedigree of being one of those really high-skilled technical players. So two very different styles. I want to see how it turns out.
Absolutely.
And at the end, both the players are really skilled. I mean, I can't say that one person's technical level is greater than the others. They're both really good. It really comes down to the deck list that they bring. We see that Oskkaka is kind of bringing a lineup similar to Tice, where he's bringing Patron Warrior and Freeze Mage as well.
Yeah.
And we're going to see if he can follow in Tice's footsteps to the semifinals.
On the other hand, there is the Shaman from PingPingHo. But the big question, I think, is what does their Hearthstone say, and what do they say through the gameplay? Because PingPingHo is from Taiwan, and he wants to prove himself to his countrymen through the game itself. I think they don't respect him that much. So, through the gameplay and through qualifying here and winning the World Championship, he wants to say to reach their hearts with the game itself.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he wasn't born in Taiwan, he was born in the States. And, sometimes, since you're not a true Taiwanese, you might get some people feeling otherwise. But he's here to play the game. He's here to prove himself that, he belongs in the top Hearthstone players in the world. And, he's brought Shaman. He's really confident with it. And he plays a lot of Shaman. So we're going to see some very crazy combos, hopefully.
Absolutely. Robert, what does Ostkaka's Hearthstone say?
I think, like I said, he comes from a group of players that all practice and scrimmage together a lot, and their big thing is just not misplaying, right? They go in there, they bring decks that they found to be extremely powerful, and the goal is to just not, be affected by nerves, not be affected by other considerations, and just really have strong play throughout the series.
All right, makes a lot of sense. All right, guys, game one is ready. Oskkaka versus PingPingHo, Warrior versus Druid. Let's look at the hands.
PingPingHo's hand is looking pretty good. He has the Innervate and the Wild Growth. Usually, Ancient of Lore is pretty good against, games that go pretty long. So, if PingPingHo feels like that the Patron Warrior is not going to establish a lot of creatures at turn 5, then he can keep that for card draw. But he's going to look for some early plays.
Right, so ever since, obviously, Warsong Commander was changed, Grim Patron's identity as a deck has changed with it. I've talked to a lot of players who are still playing it competitively, and they say that this is actually one of the best matchups. Mid-range Druid specifically, they feel they have a great leg up against it, that they can basically outscale the Druid in terms of burst damage, combo notwithstanding. So Oskkaka has to feel pretty confident about this matchup. And for PingPingHo, as you guys pointed out, incredible opening hand. Just he's going to accelerate to really high mana totals quickly. He's going to be able to play a lot of what comes off the top of his deck very shortly. So very good opening hands for both players, I feel like.
Yeah, absolutely. It feels like Oskkaka is ending in a good matchup, especially after the recent additions of the bigger cards like Sludge. Is he running Sludge Vultures as well?
Well, here we see actually he has a Lothar in his hand, and it's going to be a very formidable minion. 5/5 is exactly what you want against a Druid, because Swipe doesn't clear it, Wrath Hero Power doesn't clear it. He's going to do something.
So I think Sludge Belcher's inclusion is kind of a more recent thing. And when these players submitted these deck lists, this was back in the time where I think the main difference is you were seeing Shredders, Lothar, and Dr. Boom.
And Gramash.
Gramash is thrown in there as well as the finisher. And it's a very powerful deck in its own right. The biggest difference, aside from, obviously just crazy damage all in one turn, is you have to really make careful decision making as far as how greedy you're willing to be, because the core theme of the deck is still drawing a bunch of cards, having that card advantage, and leveraging it to win the game.
Yeah, it's a pretty interesting deck, but on the other hand, Druid can stop it. As you mentioned, Robert, it's a really good start with the ramp, and originally, how Druid was stopping Patron was just with the minions. Just drop as many minions as possible in the beginning of the game, so that Patron can't go with the Patron Whirlwind effect to get a couple of dudes on the board. Just counter that with your own minions.
Right. For Oskkaka now, he got that Death Spite in the opening hand, which every single mulligan guide I've read now for this deck just basically says you hard mulligan for weapons. That's all you look for, because the Death Spite, the Fiery War Axes allow you to 2 for 1. You can leverage your health total as a resource, get rid of other minions off the board, and Oskkaka's obviously got 2 weapons in hand, so he's in a pretty good spot, although he was not able to deal with Darnassus Aspirant. And Darnassus Aspirant staying on the board could prove problematic.
Yeah, but PingPingHo unfortunately can't really use that mana crystal that's provided by Darnassus Aspirant right now, so he's just going to continue wrapping up and hope for some bigger minions that perhaps will come later down the line. But yeah, speaking about the Death Spite, I mean, what else do you want to do as a warrior in turn 4, right? You just want to play the Death Spite, such a strong card. So we can also see that that's why that's the only 4-drop in the deck usually.
Aside from Shredder.
Right, exactly.
Right, yeah. Shredder is a little bit more of a proactive play, but the Death Spite just has so much immediate effect on the board.
So, at the moment, Oskkaka has the Death Spite, you guys mentioned. He has Patron as well. He's looking for an Inner Rage or a Whirlwind. He has the coin as well, so on 5, if he develops a Death Spite on 4, he will be able to follow up with Patron into coin Whirlwind on maybe Inner Rage. His plan is to have those Patrons as soon as possible on the board and clear the board as he goes.
Exactly. Very difficult for a Druid to deal with such a big Patron board, right? Swipe deals 1 damage to a Patron that's perhaps not a 1 health, and it's just going to cause more problems. So that's exactly the gameplay.
You know, for PingPingHo, he's in a position where, obviously when you're the Druid, you want your Innovates, you want your Wild Growths, you want your Darnassus Aspirants because you want to ramp up, but there's a point where you maybe have too much ramp. You're not drawing into enough threats, and Druid kind of, I still think, has to be the aggressor in this matchup.
Yeah.
Because over time, the Patron will use stuff like weapons, those mid-range drops, and then obviously, as you pointed out, Grommash to seal the game. Very advantageous for PingPingHo that he got that Ancient of Lore. He can innovate straight into it. He puts a 5/5 on the board, gonna draw cards, obviously, since he can't heal himself. So this was a great draw for PingPingHo, and I think this was kind of that last turn where he was either going to get the threat or fall way too far behind.
Yeah, this was the exact moment when he needed it, because he is, as you mentioned, the beatdown. He needs to be aggressive. Not only Grommash is the good finisher for the Patron deck, the fact that you have Battle Rage, is he running Battle Rage, this version? That might be the version with the Battle Rage, so really similar, where you have all the draw. So if your Druid goes card by card with the Patron will outvalue Druid in the end.
Yeah, Patron still requires the Battle Rage to cycle a lot of cards. Obviously, you can get some off Acolyte of Pain, Slam, but Battle Rage is where you're going to have those turns where you could potentially have to make some Patrons draw upwards of 4 or 5 cards.
I really like the fact that even though Warzone Commander got changed, we still see Patron as a valid deck, and it got a bit better, I think.
Yeah, it got a little bit more strategic since your Patrons do not necessarily have charge right now. You do need to set up for the next turn and, kind of predict what your opponent's going to do in response to it.
Alright, so for PingPingHo, it seems like Azure Drake might be the play to draw the card, but on the other hand, there is the Death Spite that's going to deal with it easily. Is there anything else you guys would see as a good play here?
Well, he does have 2 Begging Hunters. He could just throw down one of those for fodder against the Death Spite, because one of the valuable key things about Azure Drake is that it does give the spell power bonus to swipe, and it could clear a lot of Patrons, especially if it's only on a board with 4 Patrons, right? One's 3 health, one's 2 health, and the other's 1 health. That's like the perfect way to deal with that.
On the other hand, you have to expect Ursha Boom and Grommash from this deck as well, so both Begging Hunters will provide a huge tempo swing if they reach their target.
I actually really like the idea of seeing a big game hunter come out on the last turn, because you kind of put him in a position where, he either has to waste a second weapon charge or find an Inner Rage, something. He's going to have to use another resource that he doesn't want to use. Obviously, we see PingPingHo chooses to go for the Drake. That's completely fine. You put it down. That's 4 damage that if Oskkaka chooses to swing into it, he's going to have to take. You get a card off of it, and you just kind of wait for that weapon to go away, and then you can start playing down stuff or stuff like Druid of the Claw.
Yeah, I like Azure Drake in a way that it actually forces the attack. Like, you can't leave Azure Drake on board, you have to do something with it.
Yeah, true.
And maybe that's not the turn that PingPingHo wants to go with the Patrons, and looking at his hand, it is not the turn. Just getting 2 Patrons will be easy to clear. He's actually going for the Patron here.
Right. I mean, you might as well, right? You have a coin Doctor Broom, which is a very solid turn 6 play. So you might as well create a little bit of disruption for your opponent's plans.
That's really brave. This means that he's not afraid of Keeper of the Grove and Wrath, maybe. Is there a good way to clear those Patrons?
That's something else to consider. Is PingPingHo's on 7 mana this turn. with nothing else on the board, clearing the patrons, it required him to have very specific answers. It basically kind of has to be something like Rat Swipe, right, to get those off the board cleanly.
Savage Roar and Swipe as well.
Right, sure. So but it required very specific answers, and since he had nothing on the board, Druid actually, once you get past the mana acceleration, is a pretty honest deck. It does a lot of trades, it has some direct damage, but other than that, it doesn't have like any super fancy Blade Flurry combos or anything like that, so I do like that play from Oskkaka. I think it's completely fine, and we see here PingPingHo doesn't necessarily have a super intuitive way to deal with this.
Yeah, the thing is, like, he can use Savage Roar and Swipe, but on the other hand, he's seen Oskkaka not using any Whirlwind effects.
Right.
So he might feel like, hey, maybe he doesn't have that Innerate. He doesn't have Inner Range, he doesn't have the Whirlwind as well. So those patients are gonna stay, as long as I'm not gonna play something big. So, and he goes for Drizzle Fire, exactly what he's done.
It's so risky. It's such a risky line of play, though. One where you could very, very easily get punished by Oskkaka if Oskkaka has those mechanics in his hand. Alright, let's see what he gets here.
It might be a bit greedy, but it's something that may pay off, and he's also expecting Dr. Boom. There is the coin,
right.
So he knows that if Dr. Boom comes down, this patron is just gonna die to the cat, and he has the Big Hunter ready.
Yeah, right. So because you can coin out Dr. Boom, it's totally reasonable. The patron thing doesn't necessarily pan out, but it didn't hurt you much either. You obviously got the one free patron off of the original patron, so the idea that the Druid of the Claw trades into one, it actually comes out fairly evenly.
Yeah, it's actually pretty cool that Patron Warriors are starting to, turn to other win conditions now that the Warsong Commander is not available. You have Dr. Boom, you have Grommash, so it's definitely more board-centric and very interactive,
Yeah, that's a lot more interaction going on there, so speaking of interaction, that cat's about to get interacted off the board.
Yeah, executed fully. Oskkaka recognizes that Big Hunter is a possibility, that's why he goes for Alpha and Patron, trying to protect his Patron here. Also, there's a lot of all the cards we mentioned, being the cards to counter Patron or spells.
That's obviously, 2 damage or 2 health Patron, easily removed by Keeper of the Grove, so PingPingHo just goes ahead, gets it away. He doesn't have to deal with it anymore, doesn't have to worry about Whirlwind, Inner Rage, those kind of things coming out, and he really had limited options anyway as far as what he could do because of the loath-up effect.
Yeah.
So.
I love this Big Hunter play. It basically says that, Oskkaka, you have to clear both my minions to ensure that you do not get killed by combo, which he already has in his hand. So Oskkaka just can't play develop Dr. Boom, for example, and, stay alive. Because it's not possible.
And PingPingHo does have the combo, he does have double swipe as well, so he is in a great position to rush Oskkaka. Oskkaka doesn't have the way to... Oh, he can clear, but it's not really winning play. He is behind, he is trying to stabilize.
Right, and this is the point as the Druid player where, as Amaz points out, you can just keep putting down minions as you get them, and the onus is on the other player to clear them every single time, or else you're just going to kill them. And interesting point, compared to your older patron list prior to the Warsong Commander, you don't see Shield Block anymore. And Shield Block was really good for dealing with Druids, because it gives you that 5 armor immediately. It helps you cycle to other cards, but since that's been cut from the list, it's just actually more HP that, the Warriors don't have access to.
Absolutely.
And Oskkaka realizes, the danger of just losing the game right now. Gonna spend a coin for the hero card for that 2 extra health, and it's gonna save him here.
If he would not do that play, he was dead. Yeah, I was 20 points of damage incoming.
I mean, obviously, the main win condition is not being dead.
Yeah, right.
Oskkaka electing to not die is going to help him in the future.
The main win condition is killing your opponent, but then, you also have a second condition that you can't die first.
Well, you can't do that if you're dead.
Exactly.
So you got to stay alive first so then you can kill your opponent.
Right. And
that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And Oskkaka, I think, also realizes that PingPingHo playing the Big Hunter means that his hand is like, perhaps not the best, so the combo has a bigger possibility of being in.
The big question is, what do you do now as PingPingHo? You can combo, but I think Armor Smith is something you absolutely need to kill. On the other hand, you have the swipe as well. Does double swipe make any sense?
Yeah, you kind of do have to clear the Armor Smith. It does represent, a lot of health, especially with all the whirlwind effects. So we'll see how he chooses to deal with this.
It looks like he might just actually ignore the Armor Smith for now. Wow. Go back off the board. Here about your thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
With this, it seems like Oskkaka will be at 16 health, and then there is 14 damage per combo, 4 from the Big Hunter. So PingPingHo is setting a trap. If Oskkaka kills Big Hunter with the weapon and just armors up, combo will be enough to finish the game.
Alright, luckily for Oskkaka, he got a Drink Corsair. A 1 mana 3/3 taunt is pretty good. And he can even play that with Dr. Brew, maybe, just to go a little bit more risky.
Well, after seeing double Big Hunter, you could probably play it safely.
I mean, you do need to develop minions on the board to win the game, but really depends on what line he chooses. He could just, you know, in a sense, fatigue the Druid out of his cards so that he just win minions regardless in the end, or he can just choose to take a stand here and develop the 7/7 and 2 boom bots.
Right, so for PingPingHo, the name of the game just continues to be try to get your opponent to a point where they can no longer deal with minions, or you have enough guaranteed damage. And the Armor Smith without a bunch of minions on the board isn't actually representing too much health per turn right now, because obviously Armor Smith, the effect only benefits when you have minions. So sets up a wall there, and yeah, he's gonna play that Dr. Boom because at some point he has to try to win this.
Yeah, absolutely. And with this, he also knows he's not dead to combo.
Now, that's the problem with leaving up in Armor Smith. Effectively, all your minions gain Death Rattle, gain and armor, right? So right now, PingPingHo's swipe is not looking too good. You might have to find something a little bit more creative.
The big question is, does he have a choice to do anything else?
I love watching Oskkaka play this deck because there are so many decisions involved in playing this deck correctly these days, and Oskkaka's such a good decision maker. He kind of, again, going back to coining out the hero power to survive, plays down the Dread Corsair, plays down a bunch of minions around it to where, again, the Armor Smith can really profit from that, get him a bunch of HP, and PingPingHo's sitting there with a lot of damage in hand, but there's no real way to just immediately do anything. He has to get through that Dread Corsair, and then he probably has to kill the Armor Smith, and yeah, I guess in this situation, PingPingHo might actually come into a little bit of trouble because he did not choose to kill the Armor Smith the turn before.
Oskkaka is so patient. Oh wow, PingPingHo is going for double swipe on Dr. Boom, I believe. That's a lot of armor.
That's right, the Armor Smith is effectively getting 8 procs and still stays alive.
So PingPingHo goes for the play to clear the board and give himself more time. He is the beatdown, but he realizes that at this point, just needs to clear the way for his minions. And if he has a big Druid of the Claw next turn, maybe that'll be enough to stop Oskkaka.
So we see the Frothing come off the top for Oskkaka. Frothing Berserker extremely powerful still in its own right, but it's kind of one of those things where in this situation, it doesn't go fast anymore. So it's going to have to wait a turn before it does something, and you know, we see that PingPingHo, while he may not necessarily want to do it, does have tools to deal with something like a Frothing Berserker.
Yeah, this means like Oskkaka is just about more, play a couple of minions, have more of them. Acolyte make him draw them cards, interact with Grim Patron, and you know, it's some damage as well. Even though those minions are small, they are doing damage, and if he picks up a Whirlwind, this will empower the Frothing Berserker.
Yeah, even small creatures like the Acolyte, which is just the 1/3, is very annoying for a Druid to clear with because, you know, usually they do a lot of damage to one creature and try and kill it that way, but we can see that Force of Nature, Saboteur is so inefficient in dealing with these, you know, small creatures.
Yeah, Whirlwind would be the dream draw for Oskkaka with the 2 Acolytes down, the Frothing Berserker, draw a bunch of cards, activate your Berserker to get one big. Yeah. I think this is a totally reasonable play. You just have to get that Berserker off the board. But, you know, PingPingHo as the Druid player is now playing from behind. He's just answering threats, which is not where he wants to be against the Vision Warrior.
Yeah, and Oskkaka actually has more cards in his hands than appears because he does have those Acolytes. And in a rage, he can even draw more cards.
Or you can play it under Patron.
Yeah, Inner Rage Patron seems really strong.
Yeah.
Especially because Druid is running out of cards. So you might put PingPingHo in a position where he needs to use the combo to clear the Patrons. Yep. So right now the game plan is changing for PingPingHo because, as you mentioned, Robert, he's playing from behind. So now instead of just trying to rush Warrior, he'll try to eliminate all the threats that Warrior has in the deck.
Right. We see he is going with as a monster that Inner Rage on the Acolyte, which is totally reasonable. He's going to draw some cards. Ends up getting 2 cards off that Acolyte. Do a second Inner Rage. Now, I would be curious if he chooses to use that second Inner Rage on the other Acolyte, because I really feel like the Patron play is what needs to be done here. What do you guys think?
I think Oskkaka's mind right now is running through if his opponent has combo.
Right.
And combo is an efficient way to deal with Grim Patron, right? This is really the only tools that Druid has. So he thinks he has it in his hand, he's just gonna hold off. Top deck the Battle Rage there and refill his hand to...
He has a 25
cards, yeah.
25 points of health with the armor. If he armors up more, he doesn't have to. He's absolutely safe beyond the combo range. And this board threatens to...
And PingPingHo's face really says it all. He's like, oh, that armor. No. I didn't want him to get this much armor, but yeah. Oskkaka firmly in a driver's seat now, totally protected. There's really nothing PingPingHo can pull out as the Druid player to do any kind of a significant threatening to Oskkaka's position.
Doomsayer, Robert. Is it Doomsayer time?
Yeah, in bleak moments like this, you just have to play Doomsayer.
Well, let's see what's driving the shredder. I would be surprised if he doesn't go for that, because that's kind of what he needs to be doing right now.
Yeah, I mean, you take every chance you get, right? As slim as it might be, and sometimes it happens.
Alright, so PingPingHo is going for the combo to clear the minions. Now this.
Oh wow, he's actually clearing the hard way.
Well, that's obviously, it gives him the more, there's a way better probability of him winning the game, clearing minions off the board, I think, than looking for a Doomsayer and a Shredder.
Yeah, I'm not so sure about that because the Skaka will be sitting at, 5 cards after they draw the cards, so, it might be hard to come back to that point. So, we'll see if it pays off for him.
Well, we do know now that there's a dog somehow driving a Shredder.
This one Armorsmith survived for so many turns.
Yep. MVP, well, I wish we could see the damage that's been tallied up on an Armorsmith.
Alright,
guys. And the HP generated.
But this is it. Oskkaka is going to seal the game number 1. Take it from PingPingHo. So Oskkaka is 1-0. Second match.
Yeah, that run really came down to Oskkaka making all the right decisions when he needed to, understanding what his win conditions were, even at points kind of deciding towards the end there, I just need to get some more cards, I'll get some more cards and I'll find my answer. I don't necessarily need to make a bunch of patrons, so good on Oskkaka. And for PingPingHo, I'm sure he's going to look back at that turn where he chose not to clear the Armorsmith, and maybe rethink that one, like, was that something I should have done? Was I okay with that play?
Yeah, and Armorsmith, at the end of the day, gained so much armor that, Oskkaka just went out of reach from PingPingHo. And of course, like you said, Robert, the 2 patron play on turn 5 was very impressive. Usually you just want to, get as many patrons as you can, but, Oskkaka realizes that, 2 is fine against the matchup.
Yeah, but on the other hand, the matchup was in favor of Oskkaka, so just using the cards that were in his deck, he was able to set up a really good control and then win in the end. Cards like Battle Rage were really useful. The fact how he was using Inner Rages to draw the cards as well, to set up to draw into Chromation War when he knew exactly what he had in his deck and what was left. So a pretty impressive game.
Yeah. Very well played by Oskkaka. So.
Alright, so what do you guys think is going to be the next choice of the decks for those guys?
It's hard to guess at this moment, but Oskkaka really favors Freeze Mage, though. We'll see if he goes with that next.
All right. Well, we sat down with PingPingHo to see what he has to say, so let's check that out.
My name is PingPingHo. I'm 28 years old, and I'm representing Taiwan. Because we don't have our own tournament in Taiwan, we have to participate in tournament in Europe or NA. Basically, we have our daily schedule completely upside down. We sleep at day and play Hearthstone tournament at night. The first tournament that I won was Intel Cyber League in Taiwan. I wasn't even going to participate in that day, but they told me there was a space open for me, and I just joined it and won it by accident. One of the biggest obstacles I have this year is my team White Spider was disbanded a couple of months ago. I got a very good teammate, Roger, team manager Mao Mao. If they have just sponsored me for a couple more months, I would have represent White Spider here at BlizzCon. A lot of people think Shaman is really bad, and they always laugh at me if I lose with my Shaman. They think Shaman is not a good class. When people told me that I should not bring Shaman to BlizzCon, I actually feel pretty insulted because I play Shaman so much, and I know Shaman so much more about than they do. If I win BlizzCon, I think Blizzard should add a new Shaman skin featuring PingPingHo myself. Many Taiwanese fans doesn't want to support me, but I still make it here at BlizzCon Top 8. And I will prove to them I'm good. 对各位支持我的粉丝呢，我很感谢各位大家的支持。至于那些不支持我的粉丝呢，我也还是要感谢你，因为你们给予我的负面能量，一直是我向前的动力。
You just gotta love PingPingHo. He's such a great guy, right?
Yeah, the positive energy for him really has been infectious. And, you know, a lot of times when you come into Hearthstone tournaments, it's easy to see players you don't recognize, and you're like, I don't necessarily feel like a strong attachment to this player, or, you know, they're not saying anything that's super resonating with me. But PingPingHo, the whole shaman roleplay, being super confident, the being undaunted in the face of, you know, as you said, people laughing at him when he loses with shaman. Very, very interesting individual, and one you can't help but root for.
He's proving himself. And Amas, what do you think about him winning a tournament by accident?
Oh, I mean, I don't think it's an accident. I just think he's very humble. He's a really good player. That's why he's here in the top 8, and we're sitting here. So I'm really looking forward to seeing a shaman play, and looking forward to seeing the shaman skin as well.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, it's the whole thing.
I hope we actually edit it at some point.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure at this point Thrall's actually just an alternate skin for PingPingHo.
Oh wow.
PingPingHo is the default shaman hero.
That might be the case. But here we see the tables have turned. Oskkaka is going to play the Freeze Mage, and PingPingHo is going to cue the Druid again. And we know that Druid is a little bit of a favorite against the Freeze Mage.
I think this game might decide the whole match, because looking at the lineups, Freeze Mage might struggle versus Druid, might struggle versus Hybrid Hunter that PingPingHo is bringing, and versus Shaman as well. For Oskkaka, the best shot with the Freeze Mage is to actually get the Shaman, but here he got the Druid, and as you mentioned, Druid is actually favored.
I want to point out, though, you know, you say like, oh, he would want to get Shaman into Freeze Mage, but PingPingHo is no stranger to beating Freeze Mage with Shaman, so...
Absolutely, so it's not a great matchup for Oskkaka as well.
Right.
Oskkaka really needs to win at least one game with that Freeze Mage. So what do you guys think Oskkaka needs to get to win versus Druid?
I mean, Oskkaka's hand is looking pretty good, right? You really want to not see any secrets. You only want to see them from your mad scientists. You want the early draw engines like Loot Hoarder, like Acolyte Pain that he has right now. And anytime Oskkaka gets a Frost Nova, he can just Frost Nova Doomsayer. Of course, Keep with the Grove is kind of like the trump card from the Druid, but you have 2 right now. And he can even play both of the Doomsayers without a Frost Nova, and Druid sometimes struggle to deal 14 damage.
Right, and we see Oskkaka's opening hand obviously has a lot of Doom in it. There's a lot of Doom going on that hand, but there's also some upside. There's Loot Hoarder. Loot Hoarder and Acolyte of Pain are kind of low mana minions that you can put on the board. They can kind of jockey for position on the board. And more importantly, PingPingHo has to deal with them as opposed to hitting, you know, Oskkaka in the face, which, as a Freeze Mage, the longer you can keep the Druid distracted before it starts comboing you, starts playing those mid-range minions into your face, the better off you're ultimately going to be.
Yeah, you just want to chip the armor as well, because Druid can armor up later in the game, which makes the combo pretty hard. If you have 15 damage exactly, and Druid is like 15 plus 3 armor.
And PingPingHo's hand is pretty awkward right now. You don't really want to innovate the Keeper of the Grove. You want to keep it for silencing a Doomsayer, or you want to silence off a Frozen minion for that extra burst damage that your opponent does not expect. So I expect the Hero Power here and just, you know, save his cards.
Yeah, absolutely, but it's good to take his time. He has the time and he can think about future as well. It's not thinking about playing innovating anything this turn. It's all about planning the game and mapping the matchup. What do I really want to play on turn 6 or 7 versus this deck?
Right. And even if PingPingHo goes into the next turn and uses that Innervate, Loatheb is not really something against a Freeze Mage you just want to